If Joanna hadn't witnessed it, she wouldn't have believed Cousin Melinda would break down and cry on the morning of her wedding. Certainly all the preparations were stressful, and November's weather was also quite unpredictable. Today was undeniably disappointing, with rain making down in sheets. But is that reason to shed tears on your wedding day? Joanna wondered. Neither of the other two brides Joanna had stood up with had wept before going downstairs to make their marriage vows. But then, neither of those weddings had taken place on days with a cloudburst and deafening thunder. Standing before the bishop with Melinda and her tall, brown-eyed Andrew, Joanna hoped her cousin wasn't moving ahead with something she might later regret. Once the sacred promises were made, there was no looking back. Marriage was to be honored for life. Surely Cousin Melinda's tears were related instead to something other than second thoughts or cold feet. Oh, Joanna hoped so. Something to do with a blend of many emotions, maybe. Through the windows, she saw the last vestiges of leaves falling in the downpour, the sky a slate gray. It nearly looked like nightfall, even though it was closer to noon. Returning her attention to the bride and groom, Joanna was relieved to see Melinda look up adoringly at Andrew just as Bishop Byler pronounced them husband and wife. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. After the tears, only love remains, Joanna thought, aware of the reverent spirit in the temporary house of worship. So many church members were present today, as well as extended family from other districts, and even Englisher friends. Oh Lord, bless Cousin Melinda and her husband Andrew with your loving care, Joanna prayed silently. All during the wedding feast and the fellowshipping that afternoon, the rain continued, pouring over the eaves and streaming down the window panes. Then, lo and behold, it turned to sleet, and later to snow, with thick flakes filling the sky. Such a lot of weather for a single day, Joanna overheard Melinda's mother saying to Andrews, a heavy-set woman in her late 50s. Makes things interesting, yeah? Andrew's mother replied, making note of the edible wedding novelties for the bride and groom at the Eck, the special corner of the wedding table. Besides sticks of chewing gum and wrapped candies, there were little animals made from Rice Krispies and candy, and miniature buggies made from marshmallows hitched with toothpicks to animal cracker horses. Joanna nodded absent-mindedly from the corner where she and several other single girls, including her golden-haired cousins, Ruth Ann and Lena, stood talking and nibbling on sweets. Cora Jane was there, too, looking exceptionally pretty in her bright green dress and white apron. To be honest, weather ain't the only thing amiss today, she said, looking askance at Joanna. For goodness sake, thought Joanna, letting the remark slide over her, even though it felt like an ocean wave threatening to topple her. True, this was the third time she'd served as a bridesmaid, but now that Eben Troyer was in her life, she wanted to set foolish superstition aside and just enjoy the day. Joanna thought back to the beautiful beach where she'd met handsome Eben, how she yearned to hear his voice, the way he'd said her name as they walked together. It was easy to fall into that daydream. She missed him terribly. She would not soon forget the delightful day at the mailbox last summer when she'd laid eyes on Eben's first letter, her name and address written in his strong hand. It was the beginning of their long-distance friendship, now blossoming into something so much more. She secretly treasured that special letter, having read and reread it before tucking it safely away in a wooden letterbox in her hope chest. It was there that Joanna kept her most treasured possessions, including her writing notebooks. Around mid-afternoon, copies of the German hymnal, the Ausbund, were passed around, and a special wedding singing began for the newlyweds' enjoyment, with the courting-age youth sitting in pairs at the feast table.